2010. I'm interviewing E. Joe Hanks, 87 years old, at his home at 151 North Longhorn Road, Dighton, Kansas, in Lane County. I am Helen Prose Hanks, his wife. Joe, would you give me your full name?
Elmer Joe Hanks.
Why did your parents select this name for you? Why did your parents give you this name?
Well, I was named after two friends of my dad's. One was Elmer Bogart of Pendennis, Kansas, or somewhere near there, and Joe Dickerson of Alamota, Kansas. He lived about 6 miles south of our farm. I guess that's all you asked me.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a nickname?
I had a nickname of Palooka at one time. I don't know how come I was called Palooka, but that was my nickname at one time while I was in the service especially. It might have started even when I was in college, before service.
Probably after the comic strip character, Joe Palooka, huh?
That's right.
Well, when were you born?
I was born on the farm at about 6 miles south of Pendennis, Kansas, in June the 14th, 1922.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I did. I had two brothers, Lawrence and Gerald, a sister, Ruth, and a deceased brother, Leon, which was about 4 years older than I. 3 or 4 years older than I.
What was your mother's full name?
Vera, I believe it was Vera Stella Hanks. Overholt. Excuse me, Vera Stella Overholt. Maiden name.
And your dad's full name?
Albert Ross Hanks.
And you were the youngest child?
I was the youngest, that's right.
How did your family come to live in that house, in that particular area?
Well, they rented until they bought this house, and they bought it, I think, in about 1917 or 18. It was a new house, just built, and by Neely's, and my dad bought it from him, and he became the county engineer, and I think he moved into Dighton, and then took on this job of being county engineer.
When did was it your grandfather who first settled here?
Yes.
In the county?
Yes.
Your grandfather.
Well, he came to this country in about 1886 or 7 to buy cattle. He was a cattle buyer, and then that I first know of, and he may have come back years following too, but he lived at that time in Iowa, and he was married and had one child, and he went back. His wife died in childbirth, and then he remarried and came back to Kansas in 1900 to Pendennis.
Joe, I'd like to know what the grandfather that bought cattle out here. I'd like to know what his name was.
Menor, it was M.O. Hanks, Menor O. Hanks. I don't recall his middle name, but it was Menor Hanks.
And didn't he serve in the government somehow?
Yes, he was in the state legislature. He was in the House of Representatives for the state in, I believe, 1921. But he only was in there, I think, 1 year. And then he didn't run again. I won't give you the particulars of it, but that's.
When he came out, did other members of the Hanks family come as well? Were there other members?
Yes, his all but one son didn't come of a previous wife, but the rest of the family came, and there were 2 girls and a boy that came with him, I believe. I think that's right. Anyway.
Where are they now?
Well, they're are all deceased. I'm buried at Pendennis, White Rock.
Okay, the house that you, as I understand it, you were born in the same house that you lived in for many years, and you raised your children in that house.
Yes, I was born there, and that my dad bought in 1917, and I was born there and have been there all my life, except for the last 20 years. I've moved into a different home, 2 different homes.
When you lived out on the farm as a child, what school did you go to? Do you remember the name of the little country school?
Well, I think it was called White Rock, and it was right across the road from where I was. Which made it handy to go to school, but I was only there my first grade and part of my 8th grade. It's the only 2 years that a year and a half that I was there at that country school. Otherwise, I lived at either Utica or Garden City.
Tell us about the Garden City experience.
Well, I lived there, I believe it was from about 1930 until about 1937 or 8. Probably 1938. And
Why did you move there?
well, it was during the Depression and dust storm years, and my older brother was out on the farm, and we had moved there because of the Depression, and my dad made a living by hauling vegetables and fruit from Colorado, and mainly from Colorado, to Garden City and Dighton and Utica.
And then at some point you moved back to the farm.
And then about, I think it was probably in 1938. Let's see. No, that wouldn't have been right. We had to be back in 1936 because I went to high school at Utica from 1936 to 1940. And so we must have moved there in 28 to Garden City. Instead, I told you, I think previously, 28, because we were there from the time I was in the 2nd grade to the half of the 8th grade. And during that time, we had the dust storms. And during that time, I had a route that I made with delivering and selling the Hudson Herald newspaper. and also the Dodge City Globe and the Garden City News. In the evening, on Main Street and down Main Street of Garden City.
And do you remember your address there in Garden City?
It was 401 Fulton Street, I believe. It was on 4th and Fulton. And right across from, at that time, the Bluebird Cabin Camp. It was on 4th Street, and that's the street that goes down to the swimming pool in Garden City, and the zoo.
Did you spend a lot of time in the swimming pool?
Oh, every summer, every day, every afternoon. And the evenings and the winters, quite often I went ice skating down there at that same place. I delivered papers probably about 2 of those years downtown Garden City, and it was during the dust storm years. And quite often I was delivering papers during dust storms.
Do you remember one particular dust storm? Or
No, there were so many of them. Sometimes they lasted for 2 or 3 days. It was windy that long, and the wind blew and dust blew that bad.
then you moved back to the farm, is that right?
That's right. And at that time, my dad went back to farming. Farming was started to be a little bit better at that time. My both brothers had lived on the farm and went broke farming during those dry years, and both had finally moved to California to try to make a living for themselves and their families. And I finished the 8th grade across the road from where we lived, and then high school. I went 4 years of high school at Utica, from 36 to 40. During that time, the farming got a little. We were starting to get a little more rainfall, and we were starting to harvest crops by that time, and our economy had starting to get better.
What did you enjoy the most about high school?
Well, I was interested in athletics, and Utica was a small school, so the athletics that we had was mainly basketball. We didn't have football. It was too small a school. Was mainly basketball and either baseball or track in the spring. But the high school was built around a basketball court, and so that was the main thing about the high school to me and to quite a few others was basketball.
And I heard you were a pretty good basketball player.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, but I enjoyed it.
And you also mentioned once that you designed the park in Utica, is that right?
Oh, yes. I made, when I was a junior in high school, I don't know why, but we had a vacant lot in Utica, and so I designed a little park there, made plans for it, and my professor, or the superintendent of the high school, saw it, and he took it and gave it to the city council, I guess. Anyway, it was the park was designed like I had drawn up plans for it. I didn't realize it till several years afterwards.
Or is it called Hank's Park? Shouldn't
No, I don't think so.
Who was the superintendent? Do you recall?
Well, there was, at that time, it was, let's see, well, I'd have to think about it.
So we'll get back to that. Then you,
Yes.
all right, so through high school, then what did you do?
Well, then I went to college. In my first year, I went to junior college in California, Sacramento Junior College.
Why did you, any particular reason you went?
Well, my brother lived there. I could live with him. I did for a short time, but then I got a job for my board and room, and went to the.
Where did you meet your wife, and what was her full name?
Oh, I met my wife after I'd started back to college at K-State, and her name was Royland LaRoche. She was in home economics, School of Home Economics at Kansas State, and she was from Osborne County. We were married at a small schoolhouse about a mile and a half from her farm, and in June the 17th of 1947. We met in college, and she took me home to meet her folks at one time, and that kind of sensed it. We got engaged.
When and where did you first begin farming and dairying?
Okay. After I graduated, we came back to the farm, and my folks lived at the farm at that time, and they decided they'd turn the farm over to me so I could start farming, and I moved them to Missouri, and Royland and I were started farming on our own, and it was all new. We were very inexperienced, and we had to learn how to do the practical things of what I had tried to learn in college, and it was very difficult at first. And I had to decide what I wanted to do, because I was taught at college that we had to specialize anymore. That to be successful, it was better to, instead of being a general farmer, it was better to specialize. And I was given a sow by my brother-in-law, and I had bought a few cows, some milking shorthorn cows. My grandfather had shorthorns before I did, and I liked shorthorn cows, but I went into the division of milking shorthorns. And I had to decide whether I wanted to go into hogs or into dairying or into beef or whatever. And since I was didn't have any money to speak of, I went to dairying and to raising hogs. But then it soon became evident to me that I had to go either hogs or dairying. So I chose dairying to go into, to specialize in farming. And I